Our ecosystem could be lost because of buffelgrass.
And we take it very, very seriously here at Saguaro because it is easily our #1 ecological threat in the entire park.
Well, buffelgrass is a threat not only to our wildlands, but it's also a fire threat to our urban infrastructure.
That this was in fact a problem that could end up impacting property values and public safety.
It's in our right-of-ways, it's on our landscapes, it's in our yards. There's no way that we can control it unless we're working as a team.
Wildfire poses a serious threat to many communities and ecosystems throughout the West. People often think of wildfires occurring in forests or grassland ecosystems, but deserts, because of the spread of exotic grasses, are burning more often. Deserts aren't supposed to burn. The vegetation is just too sparse to carry a large fire across the landscape. However, the dramatic spread of buffelgrass in the Sonoran Desert has allowed wildfires to spread into areas that rarely burn. In a couple of decades, buffelgrass has transformed large expanses of the iconic Saguaro and Palo Verde Desert to something more akin to the African savanna, where buffelgrass is native. Tackling a problem with the scope and scale of an invasive species or wildfire requires a combination of management, science, and outreach. It also requires a high level of coordination among government agencies at all levels, interest groups, and community organizations. Beginning in the 1990s, the city of Tucson began fighting back against buffelgrass and the threat it posed to the surrounding Sonoran Desert and to the city itself. The Tucson Buffelgrass Effort is a model of community coordination and cooperation and provides important lessons for others facing similar threats.
This is a fairly complex landscape, even topographically, but also ecologically. But it's also very complex in terms of the mix of jurisdictions. You know, behind me we have a national forest, a national park with 2 units on either side of the Tucson Basin, state lands, state parks, Pima County parks, roadways, and utility easements that are managed by different people, by different jurisdictions.
A number of agencies began to see modest success with treatment programs, but by the mid-2000s, the scale of the problem made it clear that an independent coordination center was needed to organize across jurisdictions.
We've started out with small patches now that have coalesced and the whole fronts of mountain ranges being covered, and that's not something you can do on a small scale. You have to bring in large-scale treatment plans if you want to successfully be able to knock it back and be able to control it.
In 2007, a summit was held to discuss the buffelgrass problem across the Tucson Basin. One of the recommendations that came out of that meeting was the formation of the Southern Arizona Buffelgrass Coordination Center.
SABC has rather a unique structure. On our board of directors, we have representatives from all of the different groups that we work with. So we have people from the federal land agencies, people from the state agencies, people from the county, from the city, from business, from other nonprofits.
Tucson Clean and Beautiful has been working with the Southern Arizona Buffelgrass Coordination Center for several years through its Buffelgrass Working Group. It allows us to share information, share tools, share resources, go for grants together, and really begin to work across those boundaries so that we can have a positive impact across the entire metro area.
Prior to the development of SABC, the people that were working on buffelgrass issues, whether it was treatment on the ground or trying to change policy, trying to get funding, doing research, we were all operating pretty much independently.
So SABC is the glue that brings these different pieces together.
It connects us in government at the local level with government at the federal level and with the business community and with the partners that we need to be with in order to fight buffelgrass.
The SABCC has also been working to centralize and integrate the separate mapping projects that have been ongoing in the Tucson Basin.
In order to really understand the dynamics of Buffelgrass and how to remove it, we have to know where it is, right? So we're mapping it. But Saguaro National Park has its own mapping strategies. Coronado National Forest has a mapping strategy. The volunteer organizations, the weed whackers, have their own sort of mapping mechanisms. And so we all got on at the same table to say, okay, who is mapping what kinds of information are you getting, and how can this be integrated and shared with the entire Buffelgrass community?
The SABCC has been working to advance the science of Buffelgrass management. Working with scientists and experts, the SABCC has conducted Buffelgrass risk assessments for southern Arizona and also helped to build a decision support model that can assist land managers in identifying the most ecologically and financially effective treatment options.
Essentially, Buffelgrass mitigation is inventorying it, treating it, and then monitoring to see how well you did. So in those activities, where do you want to put your resources to get the best bang for your buck, essentially? We need to understand where the Buffelgrass is, its rate of growth, the suitability. So there's a lot of science involved in developing the model and understanding the biology of what we're working with here.
The decision support model has been developed through a series of workshops with land managers using different treatment scenarios that project outputs for different levels of investment of money, time, and resources in Buffelgrass management.
I think one of the most important outcomes of that was to actually generate a map, a projected map of what it might look like in 2050 if we have unlimited resources towards inventory and control, or if we had limited resources but we're focusing on control versus inventory. And then even though the answers aren't exact and they're not right, I mean, no model is really actually right, they're useful because they shed light on what the different outcomes might be.
The SABCC has focused a great deal of its efforts on outreach and education with public service announcements, educational workshops, and the annual Beat Back Buffelgrass Day, an event that regularly draws over 1,000 people from the community together, removing buffelgrass at sites across the Tucson Basin.
As a student-athlete at the University of Arizona, it's my job to strike out the opposition. Off the mound, I'm dedicated to striking out a growing threat to our beautiful Sonoran Desert, buffelgrass.
Buffelgrass is not only destroying desert plant life and increasing wildfire risk, it's also attacking our economy and quality of life.
Stopping the spread of buffelgrass will take a team effort. Please join us for Beat Back Buffelgrass Day. With your help, we can.
Beat Back Buffelgrass!
The SABCC story holds a number of lessons for other communities and groups trying to respond to environmental problems in their own communities.
The Sonoran Desert doesn't start and stop at the Saguaro National Park boundary. It goes well out into the community, well out into all of southern Arizona. And the important thing is land managers need to get out and recognize working with all of those partners if they expect to see any kind of progress, learning who those county commissioners are, talking to city, state, local officials, and it's developing that relationship that includes not just Saguaro National Park, not just the Coronado National Forest, but the entire community of Tucson.
We can't use the fact that there isn't money to do something as an excuse not to do anything. When you harness the community's passion, especially here in southern Arizona for the Sonoran Desert, harness people's volunteerism, which we also have a strong ethic of that in our community here in Tucson and southern Arizona, you start to bring together all of the different layers of people that need to be together to make things happen.
How you coordinate across jurisdictions is absolutely critical to the success. And I would say it's critical to the success of most contemporary environmental problems, whether we're talking about something like invasions, fire, or even ecological impacts of climate change.
It would be easy for residents of southern Arizona to throw up their hands and surrender to Buffelgrass, but through the leadership and coordination of the Southern Arizona Buffelgrass Coordination Center, the Tucson Basin has decided to fight back. The fight will last for decades, but the Southern Arizona Buffelgrass Coordination Center has already shown what can be accomplished with hard work, passion, and the spirit of cooperation.